There he is. Today we are joined by Samir from Juni, which is a very interesting Swedish fintech that Samir and I have spoken for a little while. But I think a lot has happened since we first spoke. You guys have just recently launched. Is that correct? And
yes.
Yeah, so before we get maybe into Juni and talking about that, is it possible maybe you could give just like a brief overview of how you found your journey to being a founder and how you started? You're based over in Sweden, right? So did your journey start there, or?
Yeah, so I think my background, I'm from Sweden. I'm usually in Gothenburg right now. I'm in Stockholm, actually, the capital of Sweden. And I've had companies the last 10 years. So two companies mainly, one in performance marketing and one in e-commerce. And it was actually there my frustration started, the problem I saw that I wanted to solve with Juni, which is the lack of a great financial solution for companies in marketing and e-com. I think it's been with me since then, because what's happened was, in our first company, a lot of things went bad, and in the end we had to close it down. But in the second company, which is still around and I'm on the board, we had a lot of money. But even if we had a lot of money, I couldn't find a great solution out there. So fast forwarding, what happened was that I worked as COO for a fintech in Sweden, and I learned a lot about how to set up a card program, how does banking work. And I realized that this was the time to actually create a much better value proposition for our industry, and it was an opportunity to do something. So that was the beginning. We started out in March 2020, so just 1 year ago. Me and Anders, who was the lead developer at the fintech I was at then. We did some mock-ups, showed people in the industry, and got great response. And so we decided to quit our jobs middle of the pandemic, just run for it.
So it's the classic entrepreneurial story of solving a problem that you faced yourself. So what is it that Juni does exactly, and how do you help clients?
Great question. I think it's three things. So, the best way to think about Juni is as a regular bank. So we are in essence, a banking proposition. But what we do is that because we're focused on just one customer segment, media buyers, we can customize our features so they are right for a media buyer, not for any generic customer out there. So we're a B2B bank. We solve three problems, and all of these problems are modeled after my own problems. So it's insights. Instead of you having to log into different services and see different balances on ad networks, on PayPal, Stripe, your bank accounts, you can see them all in one unified dashboard at Juni. So that's one part. And the advanced part of that function is to be able to give you insights like which costs are going up, which when do you need to fund the different networks, how much working capital are at play right now. And our hope is over time that we'll give you a lot of advanced insights. So that's one part. And the second part is what we call tools, which is, I think, something that every media buyer out there have a lot of feelings about, which is spend limits on cards, cashback, credits. And what we are able to do there is to give the best Visa Business Platinum cards with 1% cashback and very high spend limits. You never have to worry about you get a call that, or you see that Google that your card is declined or your campaign is paused, and that you can't restart it because you're never going to get the same effect. And then lastly, which is I think the problem I am most passionate about, which is manual processes. There's a lot of manual processes, preparing accounting, fetching receipts, invoices. We integrate with the different sources, and because we match with your revenue or your payment gateways and your, where you have your funds, we can also reconcile the different verifications with the costs, which means that you, instead of having to look for different invoices and receipts and then try to match them in maybe in a Google Sheet or an Excel, we do that automatically. So that's the three areas we talk about: insights, tools, and automation. And besides that, we try to do everything from a position of what's best for this customer segment. And if you just look at our customer support, I think our customers, day one, they realize that these guys, they know the industry, they understand the ecosystem, they understand the different tools being used. They will never guess what MailChimp is or what Everflow is, or and I think that makes a very different feeling in the customer relationship, and the help you can get from us over time.
Yeah. Okay. So those three areas, the unified insights, the working capital, and I guess like a float for media buyers to access and draw on if they need to, and then the automation aspect of that. So those are the problems that you're solving. And what's a typical customer for you guys? Or because what's, before we maybe go to that, so you guys have just launched, right?
Yes.
In March. So you're venture capital backed, are you?
Yes. So we have great investors. So our lead investor is Share Ventures, which is a big German or pan-European investor. And then we have some strategic angels from Klarna, Naked, and iSettle founding teams. And we raised money in October, and now we launched in end of February. And we have a waiting list of 3,200 customers. So we invited the first batch only. So we're really in the beginning, only 2 weeks in. And it feels great. It's great to have customers using our accounts, that have our cards, spend with them, and us functioning, and making their life so easy. So the beta is free. So you get, everything is for free. You get 1% cash back on all your spend. And we're there all the way. And obviously now it's as you say, early on, so there's a lot of features missing, and everything is 0.9, so to speak, but we are adding things on a daily basis.
How do you guys make money?
Great question. The finance world is a little bit fucked up in that sense that you don't always see how the money gets made, and for us, we get 1.8% of the transaction cost that Visa is taking that from the merchant, and then they send it to us minus a small fee they take, and then we give back 1%. So we earn 0.8% per transaction. And every time you have a fintech or an old bank who doesn't display how they make money, or it's unclear how they can make so much money, is often because there's so many baked in costs in the financial system. Sometimes I get scared when I realize how much money some of the banks make of their customers, and we try to be very, very cheap in comparison. And I think that is something that we are going towards. It's going to be more transparent, and there's going to be better offerings out there, and I hope we are going to be one of the best available.
Yeah, and for the 3,500 users that are signed up for beta access, what's the composition of those customers? Are they small networks? Are they large networks? Media buyers? What's the general mix of those?
Yeah, most of them are. So if you look at the waiting list, 40% is performance marketeers, 40% is e-com stores, and then you have 20% which are others, and that can be everything from software companies to networks, agencies, some really big agencies, gamers, influencers. So that's a good mix. But I would say the majority is either e-com stores or performance marketing companies, and most of them is between 5 and 50 employees. We have companies all around Europe, a lot of actually in Netherlands and in UK, so that's prime markets for us. We're very focused on UK and EU as of now. And if you look at the waiting list on the spend, so around 10% spend more than 250,000 euros a month on ads. So there is a big group of very, very high spenders that is very attracted to the Juni offering, which is very positive for us. But we also have if you look at the long tail, we have a lot of smaller mom and pop shops too, and smaller affiliates.
Yeah, and obviously you kind of outlined the problems, I guess, or the value add that you guys do as Juni. having kind of been there and with this product, you're solving problems that you've previously experienced. What are the common challenges for some of those clients that you mentioned there? I mean, for me, I always see kind of sometimes the danger of being a performance marketing network is obviously the more money you make, the closer you are exposing yourself to cash flow problems. If you're getting paid net 60 from an advertiser and you need to pay out, your media buying costs upfront on a CPC, that's fine at $10,000. But when it gets to $500,000, that's the problem, right? So what are the challenges that you see for media buyers and just generally that whole space? Is that the number one challenge, the cash flow? And
I think you're 100% on it. So you see, the liquidity issue is enormous. Like, it's very hard to grasp the fact that as more successful you are, usually the liquidity becomes a bigger and bigger problem, because you have, it feels from I would think very human sense, way that you should have more money if you're more successful. But in reality, if you have better campaigns, you want to push more money into them, and then you have less money on hand. And as you say, often you get costs first, and then you have to wait for the revenue, which means that you come to this very hard position where you need to wait all the time. And my companies have always been in that situation, and we've had to loan money from ourselves and then from the banks, and we had to explain why this is a good deal, and that can be a very hard thing in itself, and something hopefully we can help a lot of companies with over time. But that's the number one problem. But then you have what I would call the secondary problems arising from that, because when you're growing, then you also have all the extra administration, and you have the problem with optimizing your costs overall, which means that usually the only thing you have time and can focus on is how do I get this money, and how do I get these campaigns to work, which means that you lose track of all the smaller costs. But over time, that makes up a big portion of your profit margin. So I think that's something we can help you. We can automate, with the administration. So that is not something that you just, put forward. We see a lot of people just procrastinating, like, I don't want to do anything of this. And that's obviously not a good way of building a business at the time. And then also a lot of, people who says that they don't have any clue of where their subscriptions are, or if they need these costs, just because the only focus is on the, actually making their campaigns work and getting the money to push them when they're working. So I think they all come together in that sense, and we want to be the best financial companion, both from an insight level, but also making your workload less. And hopefully we can do that also, not only by taking away administration, but also being preemptive in the offering, being able to offer you credits that you would had to put a lot of hours to get otherwise, setting up the best card proposition for you directly as well. But you're right, it all centers around, I would say, liquidity.
But it's interesting what you say there, because the sort of moving into diseconomies of scale with the part that your automation solves is a big problem, isn't it? You can have composition risk where you have, let's say your business relies on 3 or 4 advertisers that are massive, and of course you've got a huge composition risk there, and the danger of perhaps exposure on payments and things. And then another poor side of things is if you've got lots and lots of small clients where the composition risk is reduced, but you've got all of the administration elements which don't often appear on a bottom line of, David and Sandra are working on these reports full time and they're not doing anything of higher value. And with that, because this part to me is really interesting, like the whole financial aspect of this. So presumably with, the record low interest rates that we have, and, one always reads about the sort of the massive sort of debt bubble that most people are in, whether it's in the UK, US or whatever, and interest rates being kept low because of that. Yanis Varoufakis, I don't know if you know the guy that was the Greek foreign minister. He wrote a book called The Global Minotaur, where he talks about the massive sort of everyone knows about this debt bubble that we have, but no one knows about this credit bubble where money is trying to find better places to earn interest than sitting in a bank. For you guys, was it relatively easy to raise capital and, you know, provide this liquidity for people given the low interest rates? I mean, presumably that plays a big part in it. And how does that factor internationally? Because our industry is very international. Is there higher exposure for, let's say, certain markets of advertisers and credit scores on risk assessment and so on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, you know, coming to, you know, our raising in our funds, you know, it took us 6 weeks to raise our round. So that was, I would say, you know, very quickly. It was mostly based on the fact that it was a huge, you know, customer demand, you know, on our waiting list and in our interactions with customers, people have been, you know, extremely positive for the proposition. And I think that is, you know, I'm very happy for that. And I think we are onto something. When it comes to the credit part, we don't offer any own credit as of now. And I think, you know, the big problem with credit offerings is, as you say, having very little to do with the cost of credit. Like, there is a lot of capital out there you can use to borrow to other people. It's more from a regulatory standpoint that you need, you know, a setup in each country. And that's something we work on. We're going to work with partners to enable our customers to get, you know, great credit. And our credit product will be, you know, based in different steps. You have the short-term credit, which is the first product we want to offer, which is, you know, you waiting for your money like 4 or 5 days, and that can seem like very short. But, you know, when you have this kind of flow of funds that, you know, we know that advertisers have, that makes a big difference in the growth if you have to wait all the time for money. So that's, you know, the first product. And then the second product is, you know, the credit, more long-term credit, based on your actual numbers and your proposition and, you know, if your sales and your profit. And I say, you know, both of those two credit products, there is a huge demand from the capital side. The hard part is to make it sure, you know, make sure that you're able to create something that's really good for the, you know, customer also. And we, you know, I think for us, I have nothing in me that just want to create a good, you know, or but a credit product with a great margin and, you know, become a good banker. That's not what we do. Well, you know, why we're doing this. And I think for us, we really want to create something that feels, you know, convenient and where you get the money at the right time and it's at the right cost for you, so you can actually build something. But I'm certain we're going to be able to do that and offer that in some European countries this year.
Yeah. And for those clients that wish to sign up to your beta program, are there any stipulations that you ask for? Is there a minimum spend or some?
Nothing. So we are, you know, obviously we ask a lot of questions, and now in the first batches we are inviting a lot of the customers that both have a strong will but also have the right setup. But if, you know, you're listening to this and you want to, you know, do our beta, you know, sign up and apply at juni.co. Send me an email at samir@juni.co, and then, you know, we'll do our best to invite you. There's no stipulations. We want to meet a lot of customers in the industry and see how we can be best on helping. A lot of what we do, and the reason we launched so early on, like we have worked on this in 6 months and then we launched, is because we want to build Juni together with the community. And we have a great, you know, 500 plus community on Facebook where people, you know, we show different screenshots and mock-ups, you know, and alternatives on how to do the UX, and we get great response from the customers, which feels amazing. You know, I've never got so good adrenaline rushes, you know, from anything else. Maybe, you know, family, having kids, but besides that, you know, from talk with the customers and getting their feedback, because it's, you know, it's a really, really wonderful feeling to feel that you're working on something that matters to people.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when you think about, you mentioned sort of partners earlier, like what does your sort of partner, you know, solar system look like? You presumably you plug in, obviously, as you mentioned, to Visa. That's one partner. We work together, Everflow, Juni. So you use us a little bit for your attribution for driving new users, and you also are an integration partner or Everflow, or we're building that to facilitate customers of Everflow that wish to use Juni. What other people do you have that are either in the radar, in the works, or already existing partners?
Yeah, so we work with different groups. I would say one of the main groups is the payment gateways, PayPal, Stripe, and so on. And then we have the different advertising networks. We have one now partnership with Zero Park, which feels great, where we can integrate to you as a customer. Will be able to see your balance, on the ad network, so you get the full view. But you also can get this automation, instead of having to log in and get different, receipts or invoices, we fetch them automatically. So that's one kind of partner, but obviously that also entails us to work closer with them when it's good deals and discounts. So we have we are focusing a lot on partnering with the ecosystem right now, and our hope is that it will be obvious that working with Juni, you will get two things. One, you will get the best, more technical integrations needed to have the right product value. So that's one thing, and you are a big part of that. We want our customers to be able to integrate all the different networks with us, and as you are one of the biggest technology providers and probably the best and most leading, that is an 100% obvious partner choice for us. But then the second part is to get the best deals. Like, if we want to be a financial companion, we also want to offer our customers the best deals out there. So that's something we also work a lot on. And then you have the biggest providers to these media buyers that we want to do deals with. So that can be everything from an advertising network to mail provider or anything else. So that's something we're really focusing on.
Yeah, got it. And what's your sort of future sort of roadmap? In the next 6 months, what are the big things that you guys hope to release?
Yeah, we are, I think we are really focused now on talking with the users and getting, both Juni's banking proposition up to the same level they expect from any bank. And that's one part. And I think we are very close. Obviously, we don't have every part of, every feature, but I think we, before June will come to a place where people will always have what they need had before at the regular bank will have with us. So and that can be a lot about card management. We or our users can create unlimited cards, and they can manage them, label them, and if you have multiple stores, or you have different ways you want to structure your payments, that is a very important part. But then one of the big things we're working on right now is the integrations with Google and Facebook, which we hope to come soon. The mobile app, right now Juni is desktop only. The credit offering, as we talked about, that's something we're going to launch in the next 6 months in multiple markets. So there's a lot of things coming up, but I want to make clear that we always talk with users. So in the end, we try to be as close to users, and if they need something, we always ready to change in the roadmap. But it's going to come up a lot of things, and we really, it feels like a really exciting future.
Yeah. And are there any kind of regulation sort of things that are on the horizon? Or you mentioned Google and Facebook, and obviously Apple's sort of in the middle of a big shift, and how do you think are there any kind of things on the regulatory horizon that will affect either your user base or you can think of, like the future of how people media buy and how this might change with this looming feature of privacy and user protection?
But that's a great question. I think from there's probably gonna be a lot of changes in attribution. I think advertisers will adjust. It will not be a problem long term. From a financial point of view, you have everything from crypto to new setups. We ourselves are getting a new license in Europe, and hopefully that means that we also in the next 9 to 12 months can offer crypto offerings to our users. more, we are working on being able to offer USD cards. That is a very important feature. So you don't need to exchange. If you get your money in USD, why should you have to first convert them to euro or sterling and then pay back, convert them back to USD? We want to have the cheapest flow. So that's a big thing. But I would say on the regulatory standpoint, it's nothing big that I think affects our users in the short term, or is something problematic. There's been a little bit talk about Facebook changes, but I feel very optimistic that this will, it's more noise than its actual problems.
Yeah. I mean, from our perspective, like a trend that we've seen is Everflow has around sort of 680 clients now. And in the last year, probably 50% of those have been e-commerce.
Yeah.
So that's like a major shift, I think, of like a lot of brands owning their activity in-house with in-house expertise doing that. Obviously, influencers, versus affiliates, the rise of that. And then also, I guess, kind of, video and things like this as being like a big way of distributing content and getting that out there and things like that. Are you guys unique in the space, or are there people that do similar parts of what you do, or some parts?
Yeah, I think but there is a lot of other options out there that do parts of it. So if from the basics, we are a bank and there is other banks, but they tend to be generic. Like if you look at Revolut or N26, they offer parts of what we do, but they are not focused on this customer segment, which means that they can only be certain amount, certain deep in the feature offering. They can, they will always look at many other customer segments. So that's one part. And if you look at the credit, there is revenue-based financing for media buyers. But I would say that we have a very holistic view on the offering, and we look on it and build for it from a customer perspective, to be able to be the best financial companion for a media buyer. And I think that's very different. And we take, our base from the banking offering. So we do not come from insights, on the side, or we come from, one certain feature. We come from the idea that we want to be the primary bank for you as a customer, and we want to help you managing your finances to the best, possibility.
Yeah. And how many people are in the Juni team now?
So we are actually 26 now. We're growing really quickly, which is wonderful. With 100% remote, we have people all around the world, and we've been really lucky to be able to, attract a great people, like superb talent. I'm probably like the worst one. I wouldn't be hired today now, but I think it's interesting when you start getting specialized and getting great people. From the beginning, I did a lot of different stuff, and now there's always someone that's better on each specialized task than me, which feels great. I am so proud of our team.
And what's been the most interesting thing, or the thing that you've learned from that's pretty fast growth from kind of X to 26 people pretty quickly, especially all remote? What have you, as a CEO, what's the sort of the takeaways that you've had of that whole hiring process and choosing the right people within that?
It's a lot about quantity. You need to do the work. I think I underestimated before, how many people you need to interview in order to really get to that level. If you have that bar, and I think that is something a lot of entrepreneurs underestimate, and they want to be quick, so they want to take the first one. But if you want to have high quality senior people, you need to take that, 25 interviews per position at least, and if, like us, we have 5 interviews per position. That means like 125 interviews per each, and then you need to put the hours in, and I think that has been a big learning for me. But when I see the result of it, I'm so happy that that's the way we went. And then, of course, being remote first, you need to build your culture, so it's not based on a physical meeting. But I think because I'm based in Gothenburg usually. One of my co-founders, Anders, is in Stockholm, and the other Jonathan is in Copenhagen. We've always been very remote driven and had a culture, more based on Slack than anything else.
But it's difficult to, because obviously, as we all know with COVID, meeting people, that's worth 1,000 emails and maybe 20 phone calls, isn't it? One face-to-face meeting. I mean, we're speaking now, but if we were face-to-face, it would be another level on. So how do you fast track that kind of trust in remote hiring and remote people that presumably maybe some of your staff you haven't physically met, have you? Or do you meet everyone?
No. I haven't met like 15 in person of the 26. So there's a lot. No, I think it's you need to put extra time on it. There's no way around. You can't have these spontaneous meetings. You need to have catch-ups with everyone. You need to talk with everyone. You have to have a very serious introduction from day one. You have to have these multiple interviews, because you need to put in the extra time so you get that trust, and you earn that trust, and you get the right signals so you can actually go together instead of feeling that you have this divide. Which is easy when you're on different places, and just the Zoom call is the only thing you see. So I think you're right in that. Hopefully we will be able to meet each other soon. I think also a very important thing is to get that communication going, and we have extreme transparency. In Juni, we have something called Juniverse, where we write out the logic for everything in the company, everything from everyone's salaries to options to the different responsibilities to accountability. So nothing is hidden, and I think that is very important when you're a remote company, that you are extremely transparent. And the investor updates I send on a monthly basis, I also show for everyone in our team before I send them out, so they understand how is Samir's discussions with the investors going. Because it's important for me, because we can't be in the same office. They can't see me. They can't see my reaction, So they need to, I need to preemptively, give them so much I can.
Yeah. So on that theme of sort of forward-looking statements and things like that, do you have any broad sort of predictions for the future of the markets that you serve? I mean, obviously, it's a pretty buoyant space at the moment. A lot of people are moving to e-commerce that previously weren't. I mean, it seems crazy in 2021 that some businesses are still going online, but that's great. What sort of large, trends, like big macro trends, do you sort of foresee happening?
No, but I think I'm very bullish, and I think we're going to see more and more companies in our areas. More people's going to be media buyers, in the sense that from a very basic human perspective, like we have seen before, that the local markets have risen, and more and more people can come closer to in an area as cities grow and so on. And I think that will only accelerate now, but online. So more people will be building businesses online, and they will meet new customers online, and that will also mean that the critical amount of customers you need in order to have a product offering that works will be easier, because you will have customers all around the world that can build up to that critical mass, which is, I think, an extreme change over time. So I'm very bullish. I think we're just seeing the beginning. Sometimes I feel that now we're too late, like this already happened. But I always felt that 2005 I felt that, and then 15 years later it's a totally different world, and it's so much bigger, so much better. And I think in 15 years time we're going to look back here and say, like, this was just the first day of the e-com and the internet revolution. So I'm feeling very bullish.
Great. Well, that seems a really good upbeat note to end things on. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you taking the time to chat. And as you mentioned, people can check out juni.co to sign up for the beta program, or you mentioned pinging you directly at samir@juni.co. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. I love a good email.
Perfect. Well, thanks again. Enjoy your stay there where you're at, and no doubt we'll speak to you guys soon.
Thank you so much. Great talking with you.
All right, likewise. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.